frontier is defined as uncharted territory by land or ocean. Those who chart that territory tell a story. The past illustrates the blueprint for the present, how things are and how they've evolved. From land to water, we are challenged to border that new frontier, a frontier the outdoorsman knows like no other. Author Gary Lewis works his way along that edge of where discoveries, failures, and achievements have written the story of the sportsman.
Yes! Yes!
From state to state, continent to continent, the stories told create the foundation of the present, and they lay the framework for the future. Through the muzzle fire and on the stone are stories from the edge.
Water is the most important thing as far as Indians are concerned. That's life.
The past is written, the present is here, and this is Frontier Unlimited. Lewis grew up in Kalama, Washington, and in Vancouver, Washington, on the banks of the Columbia. Lewis and his dad and uncle and a few good friends of theirs fished the North Fork Lewis. And when the fish were in below the barrier dam, they'd fish the Cowlitz. Their favorite fish were and are steelhead, and it had been a long time since Lewis had been on that water. It was March, and it was raining. When Lewis talked to Rick Estes of Adriatic Outfitters, he said all of the rivers were blown out, and the fish were zooming up the Cowlitz. By Southwest Washington steelheader standards, it's big water, and when the rain has been falling for a week or more, it's a lot bigger.
So you have to wait out a little bit because of some of these branches, or just a roll cast. You don't have to cast very far at all. I mean, literally, yeah, if I'm side drifting this, I'm fishing 15 feet off the bank.
Okay, leave your extra stuff in the boat, and if you need to stash something, you can stash it there. Like Rick said, the fish are going to be in nice and tight, so you don't need to wade far.
Yeah, so it's going to be about waist deep or so.
Yeah, you're going to be.
And we'll come back and check on you. We're dropping two guys, Dad and Brian, and they're going to be fly fishing. Dad's using a spey rod or a switch rod, and then Brian's using a single-handed 9-weight. Casting, stepping, swinging all the way down this bank.
There's a lot of guys that do fly fish. I'm not a fly fisherman myself, but there is a lot of people that do fly, and they do good down here. Today we're going to be starting with side drifting. And what that entails is almost like if you're on the bank fishing, you know, you cast upstream and you let it float down and it bounces along the bottom. We're doing the identical thing, but we're the one moving. So we're the one moving in the boat downriver. The main thing with the beads is you want it about 2 inches or 2 fingers above your hook. Okay, that's how I judge it. So every time you reel up, you need it about that far. Because what happens is these fish are engulfing this bead, and then before they spit it out, that hook gets a nice hook set in its corner of its mouth. So the rig setup we have is a number 4 or number 2 hook. We got 8-pound leader. We got a piece of pencil lead that slides. I always put these on sliders, so if this gets stuck, if that gets stuck in a net and the fish is not in there, we're still fighting the fish. So if this is rigid, what happens is then this gets stuck, the fish can break off. When you cast regular spinning rod, you grab a hold of the line, click the bail, you're casting upstream. Okay, so we're just doing a nice, easy cast upstream, and you're casting about 60, 70 degrees upstream. So after you cast, just click the bail over by hand, don't reel. Because what I want to do is this weight to just settle in the bottle. Okay, naturally. If you reel, what you're doing is you're taking up that slack of the line and you're pulling it out from the strike zone. Because of the high water, these fish are actually hugging the shore. So we're gonna be almost casting, almost like you're bass fishing, you're gonna be casting almost to the shore. If you're not, feeling that tap and going, oh, that's a fish, and checking, if you're waiting, you're gonna be missing fish all day.
It's wintertime, and these fish are going to be spawning in the really near future. So there's eggs in the river. That's orange and red primarily right now. I want to see them using a black bug because of the profile in this off-color water. It's going to show up against the sky. You always think about the fish is attacking from below. You always think about the sky and what this fish is seeing from below. It seems like we're farther out.
Whoa! I got you.
It's a little deep.
Yeah, that's way too deep.
We're gonna have to reenact that.
Any volunteers?
If you see us floating by, pick us up.
Don and Brian were going to stalk the bank and swing big black leeches and try to coax steelhead to the swung fly.
There's some big ones in here, I just know it.
We're bouncing along. You feel every time the weight ticks down on the rock, and it bounces. What we're looking for is for all of a sudden the line to go soft, maybe pull a little bit. Sometimes it's a bap, 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 and then you just set the hook on that, give it a little feel, see if that's a fish or it might be just stuck on a rock. But you got to give it a little try. The guys we were fishing with on the Sacramento River near Redding, they learned this technique right here on the Cowlitz, and they took it back to the Sacramento, and this technique, we call it side drifting, originated right here on this stretch of the Cowlitz.
Look what I got. The last guy's effort.
Some of these trees look like Christmas trees.
At the end of the season, they're all just littered with it.
Steelhead take the path of least resistance, and when the water is high and muddy, the cleanest water and the softest is usually right next to the bank.
Winter time, it usually runs about 10 to about 14, so it's at its max right now. It's 14.6. But what I really look for is not really the high water. I like to look for the color, and the color being a nice greenish color, it's real nice. I don't want it too clear, otherwise the fish get swooped, and they just don't. Then they just don't bite it. So there's a couple of dams upstream that it's managed, so they fluctuate the flow. But as long as those reservoirs stay clean, this stays really clean and consistent down here.
This is the hatchery outflow. So the water from the tanks from the hatchery comes out right here. And this is what a lot of these steelhead are coming back to, because this is the hatchery they were raised in. So they smell that water and they come in right up this channel here, right up next to the bank, because they're smelling that water coming out of the hatchery. My dad brought me here, I think I was 11 years old, starting to really get enthused about fishing. And the barrier dam on the Cowlitz River was one of the places to fish. So I had hip waders, and it was a day a lot like this one. We get there and I can't fish because everybody is out with chest waders, and they're bigger than I am, and they can stand in the current, and I wasn't big enough to. So I had to fish a little backwater, and casting a brown rooster tail, I hooked a 16-inch wild resident rainbow. It was one of the best fish I'd ever caught at that point in my life, and I yelled, "Fish on," and everybody had to turn around to look at the little kid fighting a fish on a rooster tail. Seeing people on the bank fishing like we were fishing that day, that brings back a lot of memories. We'll pick you up. We're coming to get you. This is Brian R. Smith. He's from Lower Alabama. He's never caught a steelhead. One time he hooked one right after he hooked himself in the ear, and then the fish broke off. We're really hoping he gets his first steelhead on this trip.
Tell me when.
That's a really easy way to go in the drink right there. They're plunking right behind that log. We're going to put you in downstream of where they're plunking, and then you've got this whole bank to fish right here. Dad's going to find out how deep it is.
We're good. Ankle deep.
What? Okay, they got out safe this time.
We didn't try to drown them this time. That's a good thing.
Lewis was using a Yarny with pink fire red accents with Procure scent drizzled over it.
Put a little Procure on there.
Every chance he had, he freshened up the scent.
We're going to cast real close to the bank here. You can see a fallen tree down here. At that, we reel up and I reposition around that tree.
Lewis and crew were on a southwest Washington river with Rick Estes of Adriatic Outfitters, looking to connect with chrome steelhead.
Little pup ball, little styrofoam ball. Try something. Sometimes they lift up off the bottom a little bit. Kind of gets you into the fish. We're going to try a number of things. It's been a slow morning, so.
There's a few people catching fish, but it's very, very slow bite. But there's a lot of fish in. I mean, and you guys are in a good spot.
Good spot, but we have to wait in between bugs.
Oh yeah, but it's like that for everybody.
The rain was misting lightly, but persistent, and the morning was getting off to a slow start with minimal to no bites.
Don't overbend the rod.
Oh whoa!
That is awesome.
Oh yeah! Oh yeah! Unless he's running at me. Oh no, no. That was a fish though. It was right where a fish was supposed to be too, right out in front of my dad. My rod went all spongy, and so I knew that was a fish. I got the hook set on it fast, but didn't go in, so. Look great.
Yeah, right?
Twig or something out there.
Yeah, it must have been a
It is
twig or
bouncing
line
pretty
or
good.
something, because it certainly immediately comes like that.
We're struggling. It's hard today. We got some bites, but wow. They're not sticking, we're not sticking. So we're gonna go back upriver and do it again.
Lewis and crew continued the side drift, trying to break the slow streak of the day. As the rain worsened, the rushing river finally lended a hand.
Okay, I got one up here. He's staying in place. See if we can get back to him and gain some line back. Yeah. Right there. Nice fat one. Yeah. Oh yeah. Ooh, beautiful fish. Hey, yeah! Oh, yeah! Jeez! Oh, man! Wow, what a big one!
All day long.
What a big one!
Hey, it was well worth
Yeah.
it. Nice big one.
Sheesh! Wow, in the trees. Yeah.
Good job.
All right. Woo-wee. That's a nice Cowlitz River steelhead right there.
That's a beauty.
Still has sea lice on it too.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah.
That's a big one. It's fun when you can net them, but it's really fun when they run around the boat like that.
Yeah,
As
I
long as
know.
you net them. As
Yeah.
long as you can net them.
Yeah. little yarny, and so it has some pink and some fire red in there. And we're putting some Procure scent on it and then casting it out and drifting it under the trees. What it really took was some fresh fish coming in. That was the difference.
How was it?
Did it rain where you were?
One of the things about a fishing trip is you can't control the fish, but you can control the food.
I usually do 10 or 12 on the ball.
I would say 10 and 20.
Yeah, that's probably about right.
Lewis and crew are on a southwest Washington river with Rick Estes of Adriatic Outfitters, looking to connect with chrome steelhead.
It was a little high for fly fishing yesterday, but we had a good time. We got a lot of casting practice. Watched a lot of boats. Today I'm on the boat. It's going to work.
Not much difference today. The clarity is still the same as yesterday, so it's really nice out here. The weather's just going to help us in the sense of keeping us dry and a little bit more comfortable. But for the fish-wise, I think it's pretty nice, and it doesn't look like it's as many boats today either. So that will definitely help keep the stress off the fish.
I'm just setting my bait up a little bit. There's some Procure blend in that box. And I touch up the bait every time we start at the top of a run.
Hey, I think we got a fish right here.
Yeah,
I think we got a fish right there.
Ooh, nice stick, yeah.
I got it by the tail.
Oh man, it's a big one. It's kind of dark though, Dad.
Let it go.
All right.
On the edge of the continent, where steelhead run up rain-swollen rivers and the water washes down to the Pacific and huge storm systems sweep water off the ocean, it's easy to feel part of this big circle of life.
That's a good spot. See that rusty big old bucket there? Yeah, I keep telling you that's a good spot.
You hooked it in the tail there?
Yeah.
So what we gotta do is release this one. So we just gotta get it resuscitated. And so I just hold it upstream here.
Take a
See
picture.
how it goes? Yep. See how it goes there? Yep, boom. There it goes. Nice move.
Did you get a picture?
Good job. Good job.
Thanks.
I think what happens sometimes is the line is bouncing down right through the slot where the fish is, and it bites it, spits it out, but it's still got line at the tail because they're facing head up, and so he feels that bite motion, and he sets the hook, and it's got it wrapped around the tail. I think that's what happens.
Yeah.
I think that happens a bunch of times. It's just happened to him.
I know.
I'm a tail man.
Feels like it might be hooked the right way. Every time he comes up, he's just sitting just far enough away.
Nice. Third time's the charm. See what I said? Third time's the charm. Nice. Nice job, guys.
Every one has been this big. Yeah.
Really good size. Good job, buddy.
Thanks.
These are winter run run steelhead that we're catching. So if you look at this, they're just brilliant colors on these things. And the reason they're so brilliant is the lower water in the Columbia, because they're heading up from the ocean. Literally, they're heading, I mean, this fish is like 80 miles from the ocean.
Yeah.
And it should be changing color. And the reason why it's not is they're zooming up here.
Yeah.
Because the lower water is so muddy.
That Columbia is booming right
Oh,
now.
it's
I mean, it's just running so high and muddy, and so these fish got to get up here fast.
We know we can keep it because it's missing that adipose fin right there.
Yep.
At the hatchery, they actually cut those and clip the fish
When they're
it's a
very
little
small.
Yeah.
These
know,
things,
just feeding.
they're all over the Pacific Ocean.
All over the Pacific.
Wherever they need to go, and there's like a big mystery, and there's no real pattern to it. And that's what makes this fish so so powerful and viable.
Yep.
You remember number 2 and number 3. Do you remember number 1?
I don't remember number 1, but I remember number 2 and 3
Yes.
because you were the one that caught all the fish that morning
Yep.
before I had to go to work.
Yep.
I helped you net them. While I was putting the net away, putting the fish down, you caught another one.
Yep.
Then we took them home, took a picture of you, and I went to work at 8 o'clock.
Now I remember it was like 1 hour. 1 hour of fishing, and then off to work.